You're listening to the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall, where we talk with successful business owners to hear the stories of their journeys in building their successful businesses. And more importantly, we recognize the folks who help them excel because we know that achieving business success is not something we can do on our own.
Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest has the unique ability to simplify things and compel people to take action. In his downtime, he loves spending time at their family farm, and he is most proud of two things: professionally, building an organization that is the largest Sandler franchise in the world, and on the professional side, it's all about his kids. We'll learn a little bit more about that here in a minute. It's my pleasure to welcome Aaron to the show today. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Tim. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's jump in, learn a little bit about you personally. If you could introduce yourself, tell us about your personal story, like where you live and were born, and about your family.
Yeah, Aaron Prickel. I was born and raised in the great city of Batesville, Indiana. Leaving Batesville, went to college at Ball State in Muncie. Once wrapped up that great adventure, moved here to Indianapolis. Let's do some aging here. 23 years ago, and have been a South Sider of Indianapolis since the year 2000.
Fantastic. And tell us about your family.
Yes, my wife and I have been married. This is being recorded. 19 years. 19 years. We have a son who's a junior in high school, a daughter who's an 8th grader, and an awesome daughter who's a 6th grader. And that is our Prickel family brood.
Wonderful. Tell us about your farm. That's intriguing.
We could use farm in loose terms, Tim.
Hobby farm?
It's a hobby farm. It's we have some property in southern Indiana. Allows us to hunt. Gets our kids off of iPads, off of electronics. We just recently built a cabin down there. So yeah, we can ride around on 4-wheelers, play in the river, enjoy the woods. A nice little getaway. It came in very handy, especially during COVID years.
Wonderful. And do you raise any animals or garden or anything like that?
No, not yet. That's chapter 2 of life down the road where
Okay.
I can move into something. But for now, it's just a big chunk of property where we can play and have fun and get away from the everyday hustle and bustle.
I love it. That's fantastic. So are there 4-wheeler trails and all that fun stuff?
Oh man, trails. We got a shooting range, all the good Indiana stuff, Tim. Stuff that helps get away. But yeah, it's kids like being outside.
Yeah.
We love hosting people down there, allow others to enjoy some nature and get out some fresh air versus being inside all the time.
That's fantastic. So Aaron, I'm sure there is many, but is there one funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Well, I don't know if there's one, Tim. My kids, as you know, in today's day and age, they love taking videos of mom or dad doing something silly, then they put it on TikTok or the gram. Just the other night, my daughter got a new makeup mirror, and I was doing the mirror on the wall and trying to be silly, and I realized she was videotaping me. So we like to have fun, Tim. I mean, they're going to be gone someday, so you got to appreciate every second of it. But we like to have some fun.
So you're famous doing your mirror on the wall.
I don't know if famous is the right word, Tim, but there's some loud sing-alongs at our house. There's some dance parties. We like to have fun.
Do you ever veto any of those things being put out into the social world?
I got enough faith in them that they can filter out what's okay and what's not.
That's awesome. Aaron, tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
This business was actually started in 1997 by Paul Lushin. Paul Lushin being the original founder. I joined in 2007 and have since helped taken over with some partners. And Really, Paul built a great foundation, started going, and as his goals and aspirations shifted over the years, it was really about, hey, we got some good people. We know we do great work for clients. Let's keep building some structure behind things and make it repeatable, and let's see where we can get this to end up by the time it's all said and done. So it helps to have some great people, some great process, and some great structure, as you know very well.
So how did you know that being an owner versus just an employee was the right thing for you? How'd you have that confidence?
I don't know if anybody really knows, Tim.
Right.
I don't know if anybody really. I often don't think it's a choice. It's just kind of, it just happens. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of great entrepreneurs out there that proactively make the choice. We have a culture wall tile in our office, and I can't remember where the quote comes from, but it says, you know, leaders don't make the mission makes the leader.
Hmm.
And I think the mission presented itself, which created the leader. So the leaders don't make the mission creates the leader.
That's fantastic. I love that quote. So tell us a little bit more about the company. What's the name? Well, you mentioned that already, but repeat that again for folks listening. What do you do? How do you help people?
Yeah, absolutely. So company name is Lushin Inc. Lushin.com is the address website. From bottom line, Tim, we help companies and individuals sell more. So our sole focus is strictly on the sales leadership and sales side from a coaching, training, development perspective. Typically, the clients we work with are doing pretty good already, but they're looking for that competitive edge, or they're not getting in front of enough new people like they have in the past, or they're getting in front of folks but they feel like that sales cycle's taking too long, or they're winning business, but ultimately they have to sharpen their pencils to win jobs, and it's driving down their bottom lines. And we've grown every year for the last 11 now. Our goal is to continue that path. We want to be the lighthouse for folks. And look, companies are going to make it with or without us. Let's be real, Tim, you're in the same boat, right? We're in a very similar boat. You and I both do very similar things where they're going to get up the mountain with or without us. We just help take some weight off their shoulder to take some pressure off it and less effort and energy so they can make it up that mountain quicker.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's more about the speed of which they get there. If right, if they don't have to figure everything out on their own and they've got a second set of eyes and somebody critiquing what they're doing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's no different than coaching in the sports world, right? Of all professional athletes have at least one coach, if not more, because you make a 10% improvement in 5 different areas, right? Your sport becomes you significantly excel in your sport, no different in business, right? It's interesting that as we talk that out loud, that you know it's a whole lot easier to make a 5 or 10% improvement in 10 different areas than 100% improvement in one area.
That's a great point.
So, as you think about the impact that you've had on others, what's one of your proudest success stories, or a client success story that that makes you most proud?
It really boils down to a couple things, and selfishly, it's not even so much of, how do I want to say this? It's not even so much from a revenue perspective or a growth perspective. Tim, when we can hear things like, um, you know what, hey, our relationship with my kids is even stronger now because I
Mhm.
understand them. Or, I got a son-in-law that we've been butting heads, and now that I have a better understanding of people, I mean, let's be real. A lot of our conversations we have with clients, they already occur on a daily basis in our personal lives. And I really believe if leaders led the way they parented, 80% of the business problems would go away.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And a lot of those success stories, yes, you can attach them to revenue, and revenue means they can hire more folks and make a bigger impact. But when you have people who are just legitimate, happier in their life, or for entrepreneurs, they actually can take a vacation once in a while.
Yes.
Um, they get some of their personal freedom back, or financial freedom back, or relationship freedom back. Those are the success stories that win, because we're a mission over commission company. It's held true. Has it bit us in the butt over the years? Sure, it has. Has it worked more in our favor than not? Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of those selfish wins professionally, Tim, come from hearing people say how it changed their life personally. And it sounds corny, but it's real.
Yeah. I love what you said about taking vacations. I can remember the first client who told me, "Hey Tim, I was able to take a vacation for the first time in 12 years." That's way more meaningful than any numbers, isn't it?
Way more meaningful.
So
I
for
don't
everyone listening, hey, check out Lushin in the link in the description, along with this podcast. Go to Aaron's LinkedIn. Let him know that you watched his video.
awesome.
Hey, Aaron, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't know or think that you could, and the impact that that person had on you.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest answer. It's the guy with the same last name that's on this building. Paul Lushin has been a phenomenal mentor,
Mm.
absolute phenomenal. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for I've been around this for 21 years total now. And as a mid 20s-year-old seller who thought he was pretty good, Paul put me in my place really quick and challenged me, not only professionally, but like what you said, Tim, personally.
Mhm.
Um, and he does a phenomenal job of treating you like a rubber band and knowing that if you stretch too much, it'll snap. But he does a great job of stretching to the point where it's not quite snapping. And over the last, as I look at that count, 21-ish years between being a client or working here, that man has stretched me more than any other individual's ever stretched.
I love your elastic band analogy. Isn't that it's interesting when you find a great coach, how they are able to ebb and flow with our own personality and and where we're at and just they seem to know how much we can handle and take at any given day.
Well, Tim, but have you ever had we've all had our rubber band stretched to the point where it snapped.
Mm-hmm.
Humans.
Yep.
So it's how do you find that person that knows just that fine line of stretching where it's uncomfortable, but by no means does it cause you to break.
Yeah, I tell everyone that the general principle. I think there was a TED talk where Bill Gates said everybody needs a coach. Whether you're a business professional or a sports professional, everyone needs a coach. And then the more important part of that is, but not every coach is meant for every person, right? You have to have that right personality fit to find the one who's going to understand you as an individual and be able to give you the type of um, elasticity, if I use your
Yeah,
elastic band, right, to be able to ebb and flow with what the personality is and what your given need is that day.
absolutely.
Hey, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
It takes people.
Hmm. Tell us,
Um,
expand on that. I love where you're going.
for a lot of business owners out there right now, it can be very lonely. Um, there's no surprise in this conversation that people are key, not only the right people, but it's there's a line that somebody said, and it's a very famous line. I don't even remember where it originally came from, Tim. There's not much new these days, but it's if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others.
Mm.
Um, and I think that biggest epiphany has come from how to leverage the unique abilities from other people, so that all the weight isn't on our shoulders. Um, because let's be real, we can't do it all.
Yeah.
And we're not experts in everything. That's why there's a lot of great people out there. And once I think we figured out the how to leverage unique abilities and plug the holes in the bucket, that's when we started to experience exponential growth.
Your comment of it being lonely at the top is it's so true. When we're employees, we always have a manager that we can go to and lament with and right and bounce ideas off of and worst case scenario, make them make the call for us so that we don't have to take the risk. It's as an
So
owner,
true.
we lose all that, right? So if we don't have a mentor or a network or a coach or a leadership team, right? We don't have that group of people that we can bounce ideas off of and think out loud and have, as you mentioned earlier, have ourselves challenged and our thinking critiqued a little bit to help refine us and make us better. And I like where you were just explaining it too about we have to be able to delegate and get things off of our plate because we're not the expert at everything, and nor should we be, right? Because there's a
Well,
lot.
but Tim, take your delegation piece there. Look at parents, and this is a correlation to what you and I were just talking about earlier. Parents do a great job of delegating chores
Mm.
and, putting away dishes or mowing the lawn, but a lot of those same people who are in leadership positions for some reason don't delegate. And then if you ask them, why do you do that at home? They're like, well, I don't have time to do all that. And plus, plus, I want to develop my children so they become responsible adults. And I go, well, wait a second. Wait a second. To Tim, to your exact comment, Tim, it's like, why are we not helping raise responsible adults? You don't raise children, you raise adults. Why are we not doing the same thing from a leadership perspective?
Amen to that. Wow.
I'll be the first to delegate some mowing or whatever it be. I have no problem if those lines aren't perfectly straight.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And also I see it in myself as well, that at home it is more logical, right? But even for, I do this for a living, you do this, I find myself, getting caught in not letting go of stuff I should be letting go of and giving it to my
All
team.
do.
Right?
We all do.
Hey,
And
we
as
know
soon
that.
as soon as you find out the answer why we all do that, Tim, even though we all know better, then we'll be in great shape. This will be the
Right?
most watched podcast ever.
Well, I'm sure you have this happen as well. I can be coaching my clients on a similar topic all week, and then my coach points it out to me and says, "Well, hey Tim, why are you also doing it?" I'm like, "Oh, darn."
We're humans.
Hey, we
If we
know
were
that
perfect, we were perfect, we wouldn't be in this conversation. We'd be
right,
sitting on a
exactly.
yacht somewhere.
Yes. The best thing is for everybody listening is just acknowledging, right, that we're not perfect and we could be better. And if we had somebody else come alongside of us and point those things out, it will help us get there faster, to Aaron's earlier point.
Well, Tim, now you bring up a point. We spend on average between 21 to 24 days a year in our own development, paying outsiders. 21 to 24 days. We also have a culture tile of people come to us to sharpen their sword, therefore we must always be sharpening ours.
Yes.
And to that point, Tim, you even mentioned professionals have coaches, and this isn't about coaching, and this is really about the end of the day is just how do you have the people in your life that you get energy from, and the people in your life that help you be the best version of you, whoever that is, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's all it boils down to.
Yeah. Well, again, yeah, I like where you just went in terms of taking it out of the coaching conversation. Like, why did we go to school? Right? To be better versions of ourselves and prepare ourselves for the future and to be able to, excel at something, right? If we took lessons of any kind, music or sports or right, why did we do that? To be better and accelerate the ramp up, right? Yeah. And to your earlier point, it doesn't even have to be a coach, right? It can be a book, right? Or a seminar or a video, right? Just
Neighbor, it doesn't matter. Anything.
how are we investing in becoming better versions of ourselves? Hey, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your biggest challenges over the years and maybe a fellow business owner who helped you to get through it.
Well, there's going to be a people trend. One of the biggest challenges is a lot of entrepreneurial companies can relate with is this bandwidth challenge. And then it becomes this, as you start to grow, you need to hire. Hire means you can delegate, which frees up time, but then you have to onboard and spend the time with the folks. And those first 90 days of employee life cycle, the most important 90 days. So that challenge becomes, to your point, how do you grow the team and then start to grow future leaders? So you got to spend time with them to get them developed. And you're caught in this quandrum of, but it pulls away from the business in the beginning. And, if you take some of there's two big mentors outside of the folks in this office, but from that side, there's a gentleman named Dave Curlin who created a objective management group. And Dave Curlin really stretched us from that sales and leadership side and that people side to really understand that. And then there's from a financial aspect, a lot of lessons learned. I'm not a financial person. I'm not a financial guru. I'm I'm not. There's a gentleman named Dan Lacey. Dan Lacey was a godsend for us for so many years to help our financial health
Mm,
be understood, because we always had the mantra, just sell our way out of it,
sure.
which worked, don't get me wrong, but when you can match the sales side with a healthy financial side,
Yes, yes.
those two are a great marriage. So if you take those two particular folks, in the guidance and insight and mentorship they provided on things that we just didn't know that we didn't know, huge impact.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like your what you said, we can sell our way out of it, which is awesome, right? You've got the skills to be able to do it. It's what you guys, do for a living. But the work smarter, not harder idea of, hey, if we fix the financial side and tighten, improve our margins, and now we don't have to sell our way out of it. We're just financially healthier. It's like, oh, wow.
Wow,
Hey,
makes a difference.
what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
I really do. I think it's going to tie into those two buckets. One of the biggest things I've learned throughout the years is nothing surprises me anymore.
Mm. Tell us more about that.
Tim, I literally have learned to not be surprised by anything anymore. Like, and I share it with the great folks in this office in our company. It's like, it just takes a while when you've been through a lot of things and a lot of weird instances have occurred. And let's be real, it's life and people are unpredictable.
Yes.
But when I finally let go of whatever the norm could or should be and just appreciate the fact that sometimes you're just going to be surprised. So don't be surprised by being
Yeah,
surprised.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's not surprising that happened. It's not surprising that on the one day we absolutely needed all the technology in our very large room, that it all took a big poop that day. Not surprising. Otherwise, you just drive yourself batty, Tim, and you put
Yeah.
so much pressure on yourself on items you can't control.
You mentioned that it's life, which and it is people. I was at a planning session yesterday for my plan, for my quarterly plan, and they had three little lines on the board. One was what we think our plan should be, and it was a linear line, right? And then what we assume it probably would be, which was just a wavy line. And then the third was what's the reality, and it was this, right? Of just complete unpredictability. But to your point, it was like, yeah, but embrace that, because the journey, right? We don't know where people and things are going to take us, but embrace it, because there's probably a reason that all of those squiggles happen, because there's something that we have to learn or grow through or experience to actually be able to deliver our plan.
Well, and you take that squiggle line. Yes, we have learned the hard way, or especially early on, predictability is about consistency, and being very process oriented. But I don't care how predictable and how process oriented you can be, to your point, Tim, there's still gonna be surprises.
Yeah. Yeah.
I doubt anyone listening today sat around in March of 2020 and went, all right, I think I know what's gonna happen in a couple.
Right.
Like,
You,
just
you,
like, not surprising. Let's figure this one out now. Let's go.
yeah.
It's always something.
You mentioned that there was two things. What was the other one?
Well, and that's from the people side of things and people's actions and pieces not being surprising, and really that other thing stem from that whole financial aspect. And I don't believe in my heart of hearts, Tim. Depending upon that entrepreneurial or mid-sized business, depending upon the size of it, I think from that financial health perspective, we have learned to really protect our bottom lines and protect just from a financial aspect. And I think a lot of people just kind of live by their checkbook, for a lack of better words.
Mm,
And it's hard to grow a business, because then if you grow too fast, it's just as bad as growing too slow. And then cash flow takes a hit. And you got to keep an eye on those metrics so that you're healthy enough to achieve your goals ultimately, and match people with financials. Those are two big things people got to really figure out.
it's great that you've had the opportunity to go through that and to be able to
Who
share
says, Tim? Who
that.
says that was great?
At this a planning event I was at yesterday, it was with fellow action coaches, and one of the top coaches in the world said similar to what you just shared. He's like, yeah, we've been awesome from a top line standpoint. We just haven't been making any money. And in the last couple of years, we fixed that. Right. So, yeah.
Look, to your point, 10 years down the road, we can all smile and laugh. And at the time, as you said there, at the time, it's grueling. But all those great lessons,
Yeah.
the amount of pain you feel is in direct proportion to the lesson that's learned, maybe.
I lament to my coach about all of my painful lessons. And he's like, yeah, but Tim, it makes you a better coach. And I'm like, I'd be just as happy being a theoretical understander of all that.
No, you wouldn't. No,
Right?
you wouldn't. That's why you're good.
Aaron, if I asked you to pick three people in your business owner journey that have you're most grateful for the way that they've helped you with your business's growth, who are those three people and how'd they help you?
Well, I'll use one name that was mentioned earlier, a gentleman named Dave Curlin out of Boston. Um, Dave Curlin has been an absolute mentor to us since day one. A phenomenal human being. Good Lord, is he a professional? Huge from that aspect. Number two, there's a group that we're a part of that I'm going to attach everybody in that group. Call it it's folks that, they're in the same business as we are. We meet 3 times a year, different locations, commiserate together,
Yeah.
best practice together. Everybody's scattered all across the US. Um, but man, that group over the last 10, 12 years has been phenomenal in terms of, again, I use the word commiserate, but at the same time, it's how do we all lift as we climb, and how do we take best practices, and how do we always recognize that we're human from that perspective?
Yes. Yeah. That
Uh,
commiserate, it's important because there's something magical that happens when you realize you're not alone, right? When you say, "Oh, you have that problem and challenge too." Oh, and you're successful and you've worked through. Oh, wow. So I'm not a failure or in a horrible place. I'm just the same as the rest of you. Oh.
it's real. We're all people at the end of the day. None of us are perfect.
Yeah. Who's
Absolutely
your
none of us
third
are perfect.
person?
I'm not even in the doghouse. I want to preempt this comment. I'm not even in the doghouse, but I'm gonna say this anyway. Um, but I really do believe my wife, and one of the things we do here at Lushin, we do a culture dinner before hire.
Hmm.
And culture dinner means we invite the next potential team member and their spouse, if they have one, to dinner
Hmm.
before we give an offer. Because our belief is that person's spouse, he or she, needs to understand what they're getting into, and they need to be a huge cheerleader for them and know.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that number one fan at home, it's not good.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why we take that culture dinner very seriously. And there have been people where we have said no to after that culture dinner before final offer. There are people who have said no to us after that culture dinner, and it's
Hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Because if that duo, right, of husband, wife is not on board to their professional journey and their commitment that's going to be required for them to succeed, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And we've, especially early on, as every entrepreneur knows, it was interesting early on and tight. My wife has afforded me the luxuries to handle things professionally and do some other things, and the amount of support and the ability for me to not have to worry about things has been huge.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I remember my first couple years of, well, what did I get myself into? And maybe I made a big mistake, and and lots of times of tears and and fear, and my wife was a rock, and I wouldn't be here today without her. I know that for sure.
Nah, we just got to make sure they don't hear this, otherwise
Yeah, right. Yeah, good thing it's
something.
not recorded or anything. Yeah.
It's there's so many people, Tim, and anybody listening to this can attest to it. There are so many touches from people throughout the years that you may not have remembered them, or that little bit of impact at that point in time, and that little bit of impact over time, and all of it just magnifies itself. But I don't think there's a person in this world that gets where they are by themselves.
Mm, amen. Yeah. Hey, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, Aaron, what's the biggest challenge you see that you're going to face to get to your goals, and who are the types of people you'll need to help solve those?
So we have a well, we have several coaches, but one of them, she is a godsend and she is absolutely awesome. One of our biggest challenges that we brought to the table, I brought to the table is we can't build a company based on unicorns.
Mm, yeah.
Um, we're 19 people now. You can build a company on unicorns when it's 4 or 5 or 6 or 8. There's only so many unicorns out there, so it becomes how do you find those good or great people and make them help them be the best version of themselves to become a unicorn. And really that challenge is, as we continue to grow, how do we keep culture?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the number one challenge is how do we keep culture? How do we understand and know that not everyone's going to be a unicorn? We're no longer this nice little boutique piece. We're in a tweener stage.
Yeah.
And everybody here is here for a reason. We got to be really careful protecting culture, yet at the same time knowing culture always changes and shifts. And that's going to be our biggest challenge.
Having gone through, worked for some big family-owned companies in my past, having gone through those experiences, seeing the culture in some cases remain very, very strong, and in some cases weaken as the company grew. And I can appreciate what you're saying. So how who are the types of people that you'll need to help you maintain that, to continue to keep the culture front and center?
Well, I could pull up the sheet and show you the 5-year hiring plan. Um,
Maybe more generic than that.
well, it's no different than any other business. It's the mix of from a sales side and the support side. And we've got trigger set that says, hey, for every X amount of revenue in, we have to start to hire another support and operational person so we can leverage unique talents so that our sales professionals aren't bogged down with administrative pieces. And then as that continues to grow, then our controller will most likely be in a position where he'll need to hire underneath him to handle more of the bookkeeping and day-to-day. It's the classic next function, next level up. What's the next critical function? What does that role entail? And we got the levers and triggers set. So we know once it starts to get to this point, start the process. So it gets filled in by that point. And it's just a little, this grows up, that slides over, that grows up, that slides over. And
Yeah.
plans are, it's like your example earlier. Here's what the plan should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's what it most likely will be.
Yeah.
But
And for everyone listening, what Aaron just talked through, it's critical that you all do a similar type of exercise of what does your future org chart look like. Now, it doesn't mean that's what it's going to look like, based on this is it's probably the reality, but if you don't have a plan, then you don't have those triggering moments that Aaron just spoke to, right? Of when this, then, right? And then you kind of just scramble your way through your growth as opposed to being intentional. So thank you for sharing that, Aaron. I appreciate it.
No, we'll revisit in 5 years, Tim, and see how that all worked out. So
Right.
far we've been doing pretty good.
Hey, last question here. Jim Rohn, awesome business guru. One of his quotes is, "We become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with." So as you think about that quote, what advice do you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
I love it. I love the rule. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. And there's a difference between a lifestyle business or a lifestyle and a business. If you want a lifestyle, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's the beautiful part about commerce in the world we live in. You can set it up whatever way you want. The other rule I love to live my life by is your business is operating exactly how you have it designed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Your life is operating exactly how you have it designed. And there's a lot of people that don't like that. But when you sit back and ponder and process it, it is. It's exactly how you have it designed. So if you don't like how it's operating, change the design.
Yeah. Life is a mirror, right? So yeah. You mentioned the lifestyle. It's true, right? Like folks who want just to have, right, the freedom of commanding their own time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a significant risk because if something was to happen to them, right, and they can't go to work for 3 or 6 months, they no longer have an income and their livelihood is ruined. But it's their choice, right? We all can decide what we want to do, right? My dad was a mechanic. He got hurt on the job, had to have surgery, and ended up not being able to go back to his trade. So, The fact that he was the doer, right, was a huge risk because he was no longer able to do. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Everybody has the choice to decide what they want. And to me, Jim Rohn's quote is about, okay, well, once you decide what you want, then who are you surrounding yourself with, right? Whether it's a book or a group or friends or, right? Who are you bringing into your committee of 5 to help support and encourage each of us to become the next version of ourselves?
Yeah, because what's the correlation of that one? There's I don't want to be the smartest person in that group either.
Yes. I think the build onto that is, if I am the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yep. Yep.
Aaron, sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people who have helped you along the way. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
I don't think words will attest, and those that made the biggest impact. There have been. My wife knows I'm not necessarily a touchy-feely emotional person. I just like to get things done and achieve things, but I don't think words can answer, Tim, that question. The action should be their greatest compliment. A person's values are defined by their behavior, and my behaviors have demonstrated what I value of what they have shared with me. So I'll let my actions. I've let my actions do the talking of taking their advice and implementing it.
Awesome. I love it. Fantastic. And I love how you just, you sort of just brought in the disc idea, right? Of different personalities will, right, react to things differently. And that's important too, to have, right, within our family culture, right, of appreciating each other's differences. And you mentioned how much your wife has meant to you along the way. So, Aaron, I appreciate having you on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Tim, thank you so much for having me today. We wish you the best of luck as well.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.